And I'm Asia Goare. We begin with an ongoing fire watch in Northern California. Difficult terrain, high heat, and erratic winds are making it difficult to contain the latest wildfire, this time in Yolo County. Well, Richard, for consumers, it might mean better flavor and lower prices, but for the growers themselves, these new varieties could lead to better sustainability practices. That's right, Scott. Georgia Brown is just one of 2 schools in the county that's a dual immersion program. That means students here learn English and Spanish. It's something parents see as a leg up. And 92 in Paso Robles, so definitely warmer out there, which is really nice, especially if you're trying to enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Well, it's going well out here so far. We just had a big delivery come by, but before I get to our 2 interview guests here, I want to send you a special message from Santa.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Thank you very much, Santa. And because these points do show up on your driving record, it could affect your employment if you're applying for a job that requires driving. And the change from cool spring temperatures to the summer heat felt not just by us people, but the vines growing wine grapes here on the Central Coast. Kelly Moore stopped in North County today, where the temps are the hottest. She joins us live from the newsroom with more on the impacts of heat on the wine business. Kelly? A new call on the streets of New York City today for Congress to fund a program for September 11th victims.
In this morning, and we have Asia Goare.
That's right, I'm up and at 'em today.
And you're going to tell us all about the weather this morning.
Yes, we have some big weather headlines to keep in mind as we go into the week. Cooler temps today. Inland valleys in the 50s, coastal valleys and beaches. This bridge behind me literally bridges the divide between the North American Plate and the Pacific Plate over the San Andreas fault line in Parkfield. It's the most observed fault line in the world. Too much heat packing in there for tonight and into tomorrow, but by tomorrow evening, that upper level ridge starts to build. Asia? Well, Karina, this is one of the special things about Spikes. It's a beer tour card. Now, you get a punch on this or a signature each time that you drink a beer from around the world. High wind speeds, or at least fresh to moderate gusts, are going to continue throughout the week from now through next Friday, mainly in the afternoon hours.
Love to see the birds out there, too.
Very pretty. A lot better looking than that shot of the snow on the cars.
Well, that's what they get up in Colfax, you know.
I'm going to stay down here.
Yeah, we enjoy.
A new mural honors the life of a California man fatally shot by a former police officer. Family, friends, and the Oakland community gathered Saturday to celebrate the life of Oscar Grant III. Well, here's the latest on the measles outbreak in California. Health officials in LA warning anyone who traveled through LAX airport of a possible measles exposure. Now to an update. Deputies have arrested 2 people in connection with a home invasion in Lompoc Friday. Ruben Gomez Jr. and Javier Vasquez are in custody. And the developer of the apartment complex going here in this lot, Andy Fuller, is partnering with the nearby Twin Creeks apartment complex to fund improvements to the intersection at Sacramento, Duncan, and Orchid. Conditions for use of OVRs at the Oceano Dunes first set back in 1982, and at that time, the permit was considered interim, meaning that there would have to be more analysis done before they could make a permanent permit. Now today, the Coastal Commission saying it's time to make significant changes to that permit.
When a murder case goes cold, families are left with painful, unanswered questions. But as KSBY News reporter Asia Goare explains in this special report, one San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's detective spends his entire career working to crack those cases.
We did process a bunch of fingerprints.
Just up the road from the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office, and a space designed for one, Detective Clint Cole works to crack cold cases.
You always hope you're going to solve one, and you spend a lot of hours. So when you realize that you finally got a match, it's an amazing feeling.
Cole felt that rush in April,
some 41 years later,
when he used DNA to identify a suspect in the murders of Jane Ottenez and Patricia Dwyer, killed over 4 decades ago.
It's a bit overwhelming. My entire life has been in the shadow of this, and it sent ripples down through our family for decades now.
Unlike Dwyer's niece, Valerie Foster, many victims' families never get answers once the case goes cold.
So they become cold when there's not any active suspect leads. New cases come along, the cases just quit getting worked on.
As the department's only cold case detective, Cole spends many hours in solitude, kept company only by binders and boxes of evidence that tell unfinished stories.
Losing sleep, thinking about them all the time. They definitely follow you home. You take a lot of pride and passion in trying to figure these cases out.
Once this position was created at the sheriff's request in 2016, Cole assumed responsibility of 43 victims
Not too many cell phones in my cases.
who never got justice. Though she was legally presumed dead in 2002, Cal Poly student Kristen Smart does not make that list.
The more time that passes, the more upsetting it is that it hasn't been solved.
Orchid resident Chris Lambert never knew Smart, and he didn't go to Cal Poly.
I'm doing a 5-episode series about the Kristen Smart disappearance.
But he's searching for answers 23 years later.
I was 8 years old when she disappeared, and so it always stuck with me that they hadn't found this girl.
Should have been here earlier.
The fact that Smart's case is still considered active means little to no information comes out of this office.
They've been saying for a long time, we're about to close this case, and so it seems more and more unlikely.
If Smart's case ever makes it to Cole's desk, he will first assign it a rating, a system called indexing.
On a scale of 1 to 5, solvability factor, things that make the higher solvability are DNA, fingerprints, known witnesses, a named suspect.
Then Cole would track down all living witnesses.
The suspect may have passed away. People are reluctant to talk to you. Sometimes it's cold unsolved for a reason because there's not a lot of evidence.
Evidence that does exist stored here in towers of bins containing everything from bottles to clothing to this helium tank.
On TV, things are solved sometimes quickly. These cases take a lot of time, a lot of hours.
Hours turn to days, days to weeks, weeks to years. Time can make these cases more difficult to solve, but Cole hopes time can also bring advances in technology and DNA testing that may shine the warm light of justice on these cold cases.
You know, you just keep working.
In San Luis Obispo, Asia Goare, KSBY News.
And the sheriff's office says it has fresh leads on 4 cases, but would not say which ones.
A new law that took effect this year could reduce sentences or even set free a dozen convicted murderers in San Luis Obispo.
KSBY News reporter Asia Goare spoke with the defense attorney representing one of those inmates, as well as the family of a murder victim. Asia?
Richard and Karina, the law aims to hold defendants accountable for what they actually did and not the actions of their accomplice.
Almost 11 and a half years, but every time we revisit this, it's very emotional for us.
The 2007 murder of their son Joshua still haunts Lawrence and Tori Holgate over a decade later.
Josh had saw the gun, started to move toward the sliding glass doors.
To get out,
but it was too late. Chad shot him at that point.
Chad Westbrook was later convicted of murder in San Luis Obispo County. So was then 18-year-old Patrick Wallet, who beat Westbrook but did not pull the trigger.
It used to be that if someone died in the commission of certain enumerated felonies, everybody that was responsible for that underlying felony was responsible for murder.
San Luis Obispo defense attorney Earl Conaway doesn't know the Holgates, but he does know this situation well. His client, Gerardo Estrada, was sentenced to prison for the 1986 murder of Ronald Gow.
Was involved in a residential burglary. His friend at the time committed a heinous act to an innocent victim, but Mr. Estrada was not responsible for his murder.
Estrada and Wallet are just 2 of what could be a dozen defendants sentenced in SLO County petitioning for a new sentence. While some call the new law a slap in the face for the victims, the Holgate family disagrees.
that would be justice.
Yeah, I feel justice would be served in that case. It certainly is not served in cases where there is no criminal intent.
A surprising act of compassion from 2 grieving parents who say their pain does not justify an unfair sentence.
That certainly wouldn't bring closure to me to see him punished as if he were the murderer.
The defense attorney tells me a judge in Northern California just ruled the new legislation unconstitutional, meaning there could be a lengthy court battle before any defendants are released. In the newsroom, I'm Asia Goare, KSBY News.
Estrada, who is now 53 years old, could be released if the judge finds at his June hearing that he is not guilty of the murder.
A Central Coast couple has been married for decades, but is forced to live apart in separate senior living centers. KSBY News reporter Asia Goare explains that they came together today for a very special Valentine's Day meal. Asia, this is quite the love story.
That's right, Karina. For the past 14 years, this couple has been forced to live apart. But today they got together at Tahoe Joe's for a very special meal thanks to the generosity of people in our community.
I'm thinking about that ice cream with the caramel.
Love doesn't get much sweeter than this. Debbie and her husband, Stephen Pryor, dig into a special Valentine's Day meal at Tahoe Joe's. After 45 years of marriage, it's still a tender experience.
What do you want?
I fall in love with him again every time I see him.
This time is precious, not just because the Pryors are in love.
That smile.
Their time together is limited to just once a week. Debbie has lived at Mission View in San Luis Obispo for the past 14 years, ever since she suffered a traumatic brain injury. When time came for Stephen to enter assisted living, he tried to stay with his wife, but the center was full.
They're looking for a room that's going to be open, you know.
For the past 2.5 years, the Pryors have lived in separate senior centers, forced to use the county bus system to meet for lunch at McDonald's.
Love isn't just for the youngsters.
Tina Colbuck is known to many as the Flower Lady because she volunteers her time delivering flowers donated by Trader Joe's to local seniors like Debbie.
Then last week I asked her if she was looking forward to Valentine's Day, and she said yes, she was going on a date with her husband to McDonald's.
Colbuck, moved by this story of separated soulmates, arranged a lunch here at Tahoe Joe's.
This is really special.
It's the marriage, not the meal, that brings these two together, but a full belly and full heart holds them over until next time.
They're special, and we're not going to give them up.
The San Luis Obispo Menu Club pitched in to make the meal possible today. The Pryors are hopeful that they can soon be united at the Senior Center here in San Luis Obispo. Live and slow, I'm Asia Goare, KSBY News.
Yeah, hopefully they can be reunited permanently very soon. Thank you for that great story, Asia. The couple has 3 children together.
A San Luis Obispo doctor is now on probation for a second time after the state medical board ruled he should lose his license. Tonight, a patient is asking why that doctor is allowed to practice. KSBY reporter Asia Goare brings us the answers in this KSBY News investigation.
She could write cards and poetry.
Dina Clark tears up at the memory of her daughter Dandy, who died in 2015 from a drug overdose.
Dandy Page.
Her death and a separate car crash left Dina Clark crippled mentally and physically.
I was entertaining suicidal thoughts in my head, and I was in a bad depression state from grieving.
So Clark sought treatment from psychiatrist Dr. Douglas Murphy, who suggested pain medication. Clark told the doctor she didn't want the narcotics. It only dulled her emotional pain.
He would never even let you finish a sentence. He would stop, cut you off there, wait right there, and then, oh, you need this for this.
Clark's experience with Dr. Murphy is mirrored in countless scathing online reviews. We checked Dr. Murphy's status with the state medical board. He's been on probation not once, but twice over the past decade. In 2002, Dr. Murphy began counseling an Atascadero teen after a suicide attempt. The doctor discontinued 3 of 4 of his prescriptions when the boy's father called months into treatment to report his son's worsening depression. No new appointments were made. The teen committed suicide 2 weeks later. At the same time, Dr. Murphy was counseling a woman for depression. The board's investigation revealed Dr. Murphy became infatuated with his patient, buying her gifts, taking her to church, and writing her almost daily emails. That patient terminated treatment. Dr. Murphy treated a 65-year-old Paso Robles man sporadically between 2005 and 2013 for work-related anxiety. The medical board's report shows Dr. Murphy prescribed more than 4 medications without a documented medical rationale. In 2013, the man took his own life, telling his wife he felt like he was in the twilight zone. The board has twice moved to revoke Dr. Murphy's license. Earlier this year, after their most recent investigation, his license was revoked. But last month, the revocation was suspended, provided he complete additional training in medical record keeping, ethics, and professional boundaries. In 2017, the California Medical Board received 10,000 general complaints. 50 doctors lost their license. Medical board records, though reviewed by KSBY, show Dr. Murphy is just one of about a dozen Central Coast doctors penalized by the medical board in the past 2 years. Dr. Patricia Snyder of Atascadero lost her license for being under the influence of alcohol while working in the ER. In Santa Maria, Dr. Gerald Ebner, an OBGYN, surrendered his license after allegedly kissing a pregnant woman following her physical exam. Dr. Murphy did not respond to our request for an on-camera interview. However, in the board report, he admitted to, quote, unwittingly stepping over a line that is at least controversial. His attorney minimized the board-ordered training, saying all doctors must complete 50 hours of continued medical education each year. The board calls the attorney's characterization false.
Those two cannot be compared. They're not the same. The purposes of the disciplinary process is rehabilitation of the physician as well as consumer protection.
Ann Robin, a SLO County patient advocate, says many instances of poor patient care aren't even reported.
A lot of people don't complain about their provider due to the continuing stigma of mental health and addiction and feel like, well, they won't be believed.
So this is Dandy and Michaela here.
Clark says Dr. Murphy should not have a license.
You know, hopefully you have to think about what he does. He's dead to people because it's not okay.
In San Luis Obispo, Asia Goare, KSBY News.
And advocates say it is crucial for patients to do their homework on their doctors. One way to do that is through the first ever consumer protection app. Since its inception last year, the app has been downloaded 8,000 times.